should be streaming.
Hello to anyone who is somehow here super early
I
on the
know.
ball.
I'm gonna click all of the buttons that say I'm live.
Eh.
So many buttons. There we go. Okay, cool. And verify over here. Okay, cool. Gigi, please don't sit on the audio mixer. Gigi, I swear to God. Oh, that, of course, as soon as I start the stream, somebody rings the doorbell. Hey, hello,
Oh,
Sticklord. How's it
hello,
going?
welcome.
I
We started a little
am
early
just.
today.
We did start early. Okay, I'm gonna go check on the front porch. I will
All right, go
be
for it.
right back.
No worries at all. Oh wait, Caitlin. Oh shoot, can y'all hear me? I just realized is my audio coming in or not? I'm not sure if it is yet. There's an extra step we have to do. Oh, great, because it always is an extra step we have to do. We've forgotten it every other stream, so I'm glad that we remember this time. Cool. Wonderful. Hello, everyone. Hello, Stick. Hello, L. We are getting all set up for our stream today. Going to be talking about how to manage backstory and how to kind of build and keep track of and develop and manage it, because it's a lot. So we're excited about, because it's one of those things where, like, we've talked about some topics that we have some knowledge of, but this is this is like a huge amount of what we've been working on as, as a duo, as like figuring out the backstory for Tamberlane and keeping track of it, and just, woo,
All
it's a
right,
lot.
hello.
Hello. So it sounds like I was worried when you left for a second that my audio wasn't going through, and I was like, oh, but it turns out it is. I can hear me.
Okay, good. Yeah.
So I
All
was
right.
telling them that we're very excited because today we're talking about a topic that we have had a lot of experience with, because we've been doing so much backstory work and management for Tamerlane. It's
Oh
just
my
it's a
gosh.
huge part of the job. So we wanted to talk about it today and share kind of the experience.
Yeah,
It's
I
neat.
believe Gunny was the one who suggested the topic last time.
Good job,
And
Gunny.
it's a great topic. We're going to have lots to talk about.
Oh yeah,
Mostly screaming and running in circles, as happens.
screaming, weeping, and occasionally celebrating.
Hey, Chris. Welcome in.
Hello.
Hello, L as well.
Yeah, L as well. I was also saying it's nice that the stream is everything. All the tech seems like it's working good. We just popped right in and we were off. So
Mm-hmm.
we're getting to that point now where it's like smooth sailing. We'll get to the
Yeah.
point where it's really like 5 minutes before you're like, yeah, you're like, all right, push the button that makes everything happen. Pop, there you go.
Right?
We're getting there.
We are getting there. We are learning. We are figuring out how things go.
Yes.
I am thoroughly enjoying getting into streaming this way. It's so much
Same.
fun hanging out with
It's
you
so,
and chatting about
aw,
stuff.
thank you. I'm having it's like my highlight of my week to do this on Thursdays. It's so fun. Basically,
Yeah.
because Caitlin and I have our regular story meeting on Friday, so Thursday and Friday has kind of become like the Tamberlane period of my week, and it's so fun.
Yeah. Also, hey, Keeper, welcome in.
Welcome.
And we are 1 minute from
Official start.
official start.
Should I show them the new surprise, or should we wait till everyone's in? Oh, yeah, you haven't
Nobody
shown it.
can
You haven't.
see it.
Even...
You'll have to wait. Hey, Fra. Hey, Wolf. Welcome.
welcome, all.
Stats. That's the button I want. Still getting used to this new OBS layout that Gunny suggested
Hello.
to me. Hey, Luker. Okay. Uh, surprise? Yes, we have. Well, it's a small surprise. There's a couple of small surprises. We've been
Yeah,
working
nothing major.
hard.
Like, but Caitlin. Yeah, Caitlin's been working her hiney off.
Hey, Blaze.
Um,
Welcome. Every time I see that come on and slam, it makes me laugh.
yeah.
All right, I'm gonna click the live button
Yes.
and go. We are live. Pachoo!
Hello.
First of all, we have a new layout in the back, so that it's better, so it's cool. And the lights blinky shine. I got that from Etsy. Hooray! And then
Oh,
Ari also has a thing.
we streamed the yes, we streamed to Discord so I can see this.
Right.
Okay, I can't see the stream with my setup. I'd love to be able to see
Yes,
the
yes,
setup.
yes.
Yes, we thought it'd be nice to have little plushies, and we're slowly kind of figuring out. Caitlin, basically, along with working on all the things that she's been working on for the con, bless her, she did made a whole list of like stream ideas that are all super super fun. So very excited. So here's another one.
Oh.
Let me just say that if I'm ever feeling a little gremlin-ish, I can just go, yeah, yeah. What do you think of that? Yeah. Come on, guys, let's go. Come on.
It looks like my stream is dropping a lot of frames.
That is heartbreaking, right? I was like, no.
Hold
It's
on.
good now.
All right. Oh, yes, I can.
Maybe it might have been because you just shared it with me.
It's what it is. Okay, it looks like it's getting better. Okay. If not that,
There you
it
go,
may
Dwayne.
be I changed all of my stream settings to stream for CozyCon. But in theory, that should have been streaming for stability, so I don't know.
Yeah,
We'll
well,
see.
either way, everyone can see now. Yeah, the
Yeah,
gremlin.
yeah, yeah, gremlin.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Hey,
Scott found the head pats.
Yay! I'm very grateful. All right, y'all. Well, I say we jump right into the game and to the explanation of what we are talking about today for those who don't know.
Yeah. Also, I would like to say that oh, it looks like first of all I need to change the threshold on my PNG tuber. Hey, I also get a pat. Let me see. Maybe if I do this, it won't. There we go. Okay, so the Doodles raffles have changed for the moment, in that now it is a Redeem Award. Yay! I get another pat. Redeem Award to incite a Doodle raffle. So, if the price is too high and nobody can do it, then let me know, because it's not meant to be too high. Hey, Scott's did one, so we're gonna start with one. Cool redeem.
Again.
So, all right, cool. So let me get that started, and now we can talk about backstory. Oh, 1K is well. I mean, it's meant to be done 3 times in a stream. It is limited to 3 times in a stream. But yes.
Kenny was saying, yeah, so yeah, that should be okay, I think, even if it's low. I guess it's low, but it's limited. We're not trying to make people like pay a bunch. It's more like, if you come here, you're probably going to be able to participate in one, but there's only a few before it's done.
Yeah, but I will say that, the price is mutable. I will figure out what I intend it to be. 2K points per stream? Okay.
800,000 per stream.
Okay.
If you're not dedicating your life.
Good lord. Oh, Gunny, you are a
Gunny has,
power watcher. Hey,
somehow,
Flan, welcome.
I love that because I stream here all the time. I'm usually on the streams with Caitlin. I only have like 4.5K. Like, I don't talk in the actual chat very much, so it doesn't really count. I'm like not actively in the stream. I'm watching through Discord, so I've not been building up my points.
Let's see. Okay, I need to go to giveaway.
You should make it cost 50,000 just so it kind of uses all of it, and then make it 1K again.
Let's see. Damn. Yeah. Okay. Y'all rich. I will keep that in mind. Okay. Doodle raffle. I should have set this up ahead of time. All right. We'll start with backstory being the word, and where's the start button? Start button. There we go. So type exclamation point backstory in chat to enter the Doodle raffle, and have a character ready for me to draw for you, and I will do a 5-minute doodle, and in the meantime, change the price of the thingy.
Make it even lower.
Yes.
Every time someone calls it out, it gets lower. For 1 single point, you get a free
Jesus.
unlimited per stream and off stream too.
All right, we'll do 2,000 for now.
Good. All right, I'll start the game.
Yeah. So,
The last time we found the place I was supposed to go, the apartment I was supposed to go to, and then I slept on a guy, but it didn't save it because this game doesn't care about my feelings. So I'm just
right. Scoot one, congratulations. Rigged.
so. All
right.
right.
So just
Let me
drop
get my
your link
controls
in
in
the
order
chat.
again.
And yeah, so you are in Midtown now. You are looking for Momo, I think?
Yes, and I found her last time at the very end of a 2-hour stream where I was looking for her. And it turns out she's just in the gosh dang apartment. It's like not that complicated, and I didn't see her.
Yee.
I was like, find Momo in her apartment. Doesn't go to the apartment complex. He's right over here.
there's the other Momo, the real Momo, the one in real life. Hi Momo,
Yay!
welcome.
Hello, Momo.
Somebody remind me the next time I am doing a doodle thing, that the keyword should be rigged.
Yes.
Alright.
The keyword is Gunny wins.
So yeah, Scott, get me
Gunny.
a reference image for Savra, and I will doodle you an angry snake man. So, backstory.
Yes. Hello. All right, y'all. So, let's talk backstory a little bit. Backstories. Every story has them, even if they don't tell you about it, because every story, unless you're talking about Genesis in the Bible, technically every other story has a backstory. So, people, I think, often kind of put the cart before the horse with backstory. To start off, I'll say people will say, I want to work on my story, and it's going to be in this crazy world, and kind of like world building, right? You can start with the backstory, but I often think it's better to start with the place you think is most interesting and then kind of explore how it got there, rather than forcing yourself to start at the beginning of time and work your way. Like, J.R.R. Tolkien didn't start from the Silmarillion. He wrote that after writing The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings. He had, like, some ideas, but it's not like he sat there and wrote this massive book of lore. Like, here's how the gods invented the world. Here's how Gandalf came to be. He's like, no, Gandalf's an old wizard. And he's an old grumpy wizard who's very mysterious. And then later on, he's like, okay, he's mysterious. What does that mean? What is his backstory? And he developed it in the appendices and the backstories. But like in The Hobbit, they don't tell you where Gandalf's from. I doubt he knew when he was writing it. Backstories are something that are very important to have, but you don't have to have the whole backstory to begin the story, if that makes sense. That's not the order in which it happens. The backstory is kind of happening, at least for me and Caitlin, kind of happening concurrently with the story we're telling.
I have a great Tamberlane related fact for that will illustrate this beautifully, which is that when Tamberlane started, Belfry was not the child of Tess and Walter. She was just an employee. She wasn't adopted. I had no knowledge of her backstory. And it wasn't until, like, near the end of chapter 1 that I was like, oh, yeah, she should also have been adopted. Hey, they're probably her mom.
And you actually get a really good hint of this from Piper, of all people, which you want to tell the little tiny hint of that old story that's still there.
I don't remember. Remind
me. Which is Piper refers to Tess as Mama Tess, because at the point, everyone called Tess Mama Tess.
Yeah.
And then there's even a time in the thing where Belfry says Mama Tess, Piper says Mama Tess. Or, I don't know. I think she did. I think did she ever end up? I don't know if Piper ever ended up using it, or if that was
no. I think that might have been, but the intention was that everybody would call her Mama Tess. And
that's right. Like,
and then nobody did but Belfry.
Yeah, Belfry used it, and I think you at one point were like, yeah, Piper was going to use, didn't do it. You're lucky because at the end, the only one who said it was Belfry. But the idea was everyone thought of Tess as Mama Tess. She was just the mama of the town. But no, we went back afterward while we were reading through the story, and Caitlin's like, yeah, this is the moment right here where I just arbitrarily decided that it was going to be the mom. Now, I'm not saying your story should have that degree of, seat of your pants storytelling all the time. You should definitely have some foreplanning. I'm a big foreplanner. But, like, I don't. When I first started writing Mothorial, I started creating graphs upon graphs upon graphs and big things about backstories. And backstory for characters can be great to have. It's good to have a sense of where your character comes from. But I was like doing world building backstory. I was doing like the politics of the world. I haven't used 1 ounce of that crap. I don't use it. Maybe I will one day. Maybe I'll be glad I did it. But what really often matters backstory wise is what are your character's motivations? That's most of what is the most right. Motivation is where backstory mostly comes from. If you are planning your story, you're going to need to explore backstory, but you don't want to basically think that the backstory has to all be done before you start the story, because the story will sometimes surprise you. Sometimes the story will inform a backstory, and if you write a backstory, okay, you want to know a great example of writing too much ahead of time? How I Met Your Mother.
Yeah, that's fair.
That's not backstory, but similarly, they filmed the ending scene first and then forced themselves to fit to it, even though by the time they got to the ending, it didn't really make sense as an ending anymore. It wasn't the right ending for the show. Don't hold yourself to a standard, right? That you not only can't fulfill, but it's like kind of like I talked about webcomics during we did a panel for those who weren't there at CozyCon, where we talked about when you're doing your storytelling and you are like, oh, I don't want to release this webcomic until I'm really, really good. You're going to get better as you go. That's also true with stories. If you plan your entire story ahead of time, and then you start writing, your writing and your story crafting will get better. I think something people don't often think about is that story crafting is a separate art form than writing.
Yeah, it really is.
It's not the same thing. Yeah, a person can be really good at crafting a story but not be a good writer. A person can be a great writer and be bad at crafting a story. An example of someone who could write decently most of the time but couldn't come up with a great story. Or maybe it's the reverse. All I can tell you is the 2 guys from Game of Thrones were one of those. I don't know which one they were. I don't know if they were bad at telling stories and were okay at writing, or they had a decent story idea but just could not write to save their life. But like, whatever the case, if you plan your backstory ahead of time and you craft the entire story as like as a bar graph or as like a list, and then try to write around that, you might find that some of your ideas and backstories just don't make sense anymore by the end of it. You're like, oh, that's stupid. That's not great. Okay, I'll change it. I've had so much of the backstory that I wrote when I first wrote Mothorial. It was great to have some foundations, but I had to very quickly realize that I shouldn't be attached to that, right?
Yeah.
What was your experience like, Caitlin, when it came to when you first created Chamberlain? There was a lot of seat of your pants storytelling to it, for sure. But on the other hand, you did plan some things out. So what was the kind of balance of how much did you find backstory development helped you? And like right now, for instance, we're developing backstories for the chapters to come. So we are pre-planning a little bit, but like, what's been your experience with that, I guess?
My experience has definitely been that I don't write enough down, or have a place where I store things except for everywhere. So I might think of a backstory thing and I'm like, oh, that's a great idea, and then later I'll be like, ah, shoot, I didn't write that down. Where is it? And you and I have this problem too, because we talk about stuff in Discord in like 8 million different places. And
There's so many channels and so many places where so much information is. I'm trying to compile all of and get better at kind of like storing it, because you realize quickly you want to write down every idea you have.
Right, exactly.
Treat it like being a comedian. When you're a comedian, you do not think of a joke, oh, haha, that's funny, and then say, I'll trust myself. You won't.
Right, exactly.
And I want to be clear that your mileage may vary here. I don't want to be like saying this is the way. This is true of all Treehollow Talk streams. I don't want to act like I am some golden authority on this information. There are absolutely plenty of writers who plan every meticulous thing out before they write. That absolutely is a thing. I find that my writing is a mix between like I'm trying to think of a good pre-planning author. I know there are some, and
Brandon Sanderson, probably.
Brandon Sanderson versus Stephen King. I have a little bit of both in me. Stephen King is like, I don't even know what's gonna happen. The characters tell me. I have a little bit of that in me. Oh, thank you. I do like that. Yeah, yeah. I do like the seat of your pants storytelling, but I don't know. For me, it's a mix, right? Like, you need to find the balance that makes sense for you. Oh my gosh, I'm getting all the head pats right now. This is incredible. Oh my god, guys! Oh my god, what's happening? So yeah, regardless of how much you pre-plan versus don't, every single idea you ever have for your story, oh my god, y'all! I feel so loved. Oh my gosh. um, every I'm like stammering. It's so sweet. Every idea you ever had, you need to write down, whether it's a notebook, a Google Drive, on a Discord. You don't need to plan. Don't plan more than you need to, but don't. But anytime you do plan, respect that planning, right? Oh my god. Oh my god. I'm getting the pets. I'm getting the pets. Oh my god. It
Did
never
it?
ends. Isn't it?
Is it not procking for head patting
I
me?
think. I wonder if it has to go one at a time.
Oh, it does.
Yeah, it is.
Oh my gosh. Okay, let me go put on. As you can tell, I am new to this. Um. Okay.
Also, guys, I'm going to become the Joker.
Oh,
I'm
oh.
going to become the fucking Joker. I've been to every door. Okay, let's talk to Mr. Robot. What did I do wrong? You guys are making me. You stupid robots aren't telling me anything. Uh, are you Clementine? Do you? Okay, I'm gonna ask you. Hey, bro.
Do 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 do. Okay, now I go and fix my redeems.
Yeah.
Okay. Cooldowns.
Yes, I will tell you the way that the simple, free, and easy way. There are people will say this stream is sponsored by Campfire. Campfire is cool. It's a great service. I like it. But you want to know how I keep track of my stuff? Google Drive, my friends.
Yep.
I have a folder that is called Tamberlane Story Development. I have a folder that is called Mothorial Story Development. Within those folders, I have subfolders of working on volumes, and in those I have like Volume 1, Volume 2, Volume 3. I have older drafts that I can refer to. I have character sketches where Izzy can upload sketches. I have backstory information under world building. Just make drives, and I'll tell you why. People will overcomplicate your life by telling you to pay for a subscription service to get Campfire, and I'm like, Drive gives you not only pretty good amount of space. If you want to add more space, like $2.99 for like a terabyte per month is a lot, or 2 terabytes per month. But like, you can add folders, you can add pictures and videos, you can add links, you can attach other people by their email, so you can share all this information. You can be very careful about who gets permission to view what. You can store it all in a very reliable place. You can access it from your phone, from your tablet, from your everything. Google Drive, yeah, Google Drive is where we started uploading pages. At this point, because I have the GitHub, all the lower res ones, all the ones that are that are website ready are on my GitHub backed up. As for high res ones, you'd have to ask Izzy about that. Where do you store yours, Caitlin? Where do you store
All of my stuff is
pictures?
on Dropbox.
Nice.
Because basically my entire life is on Dropbox. Recently, I have also figured out a good local, like daily backup solution as well. And then lately, I've also been poking in and out of World Anvil, specifically not so much to keep all of the writing part of backstory, but things like interactive maps and like the timeline function, because Jesus Christ, no matter how hard we try to keep timelines and stuff straight on Google Drive, I can't. It's so hard.
And it's funny how like different brains work different ways in this stuff, right? I think what do I like Google Drive is that um it's not local computer stuff gets lost for me, right? Because it's just like how am I gonna find anything in my documents, videos? Like I have documents that are in the videos folder, I have pictures in the documents folder. On Drive, every time I upload a thing to Drive, I just like put it in a Mothorial project folder. And sometimes I'll go in the Mothorial project folder and I'll just like make sure that things are kind of in the right place. And again, your knowledge may vary. Really, what matters is you need to figure out what your best organization system is. Don't force yourself. If Campfire works for you, great. Some people love it. I don't think it's bad. It's wonderful, wonderful website. But use what you know will work for you and is worth your budget and is worth your brain. as long as whatever ideas you come up with are being put somewhere.
Yeah.
Because if you lose track of them, they will disappear like dust in the wind, baby, and you'll never see them again.
Yeah. Yep. It's
I
been very interesting working with you on putting doing new backstory stuff and kind of like taking all of the puzzle pieces that I made, which there are a lot of puzzle pieces and a lot of them do not fit together, and working with you on like how to connect them and then retrofit them. Like not too long ago we were like, okay, we've figured this little bit out. We need to change the ages of a lot of the characters to make this fit. So we did a whole bunch of like changes to the ages and whatnot, and we're like, it's fine, nobody's gonna notice. And like half an hour later, I think it was Luker who was like, hey, I thought this character was younger. What happened?
yeah.
And I was like, God damn it, I hoped no one would notice. But that is one nice thing about serialized content, is that you can just change things and go back and edit, and that's fine.
Are y'all ready to see an example of what I think is poor visual storytelling in this game? And maybe I'm stupid for thinking it.
Sure.
They keep telling me to visit Clementine. She lives up here. She's right here. This guy's like, yeah, she lives right down the hall, right there. This robot, right here, kept telling me she lives here. Cool. She lives in this place. Now, let's be clear. This could be a hint that I should check this place out. But he's acting casual. He's right there. Why isn't he saying, oh, her place, that place got raided or something? Why look... I don't think I can go in this place. Because he's acting like Clementine's fine. He says Clementine lives right over there. He meant this dingy place.
I think...
To me, that's not clear that when he's like, she lives there, this isn't a place someone lives right now.
This part of the story is definitely better served when you're paying close attention to like the clues and stuff. So it's
yeah.
Probably...
I noticed like I looked it up and it was like room numbers. I'm like, I'm talking about backstories. I can't pay attention to the room numbers and their numerical system. Losing it. But how do I look at my inventory? I don't understand. Like I look at my inventory, but like how do I actually like let's see Clementine's picture. God damn it! I am going to become the Joker. I'm going to become the Joker. This is not okay. I didn't even know you could look at pictures in 3D. This whole game.
To be fair, you've been putting your brain elsewhere.
To be fair, I'm a fucking cat.
To be fair, you are a fucking cat.
That's how I feel inside. All right. You know what? Just think of that. I'm gonna burn this place down and just kill everyone. Cats only. Let's just knock some shit over. I'm just angry and I need to get my energies out. Now I understand why Cat Charlie feels. Yeah, fuck you. Chaos in the kitchen. Chaos in the kitchen.
So yeah, retrofitting backstories. There's been a lot of like the first step has always been let's figure out this character's arc and motivations. What's driving them? What's trying to... Because backstory is obviously very character motivated, and it hooks into the plot, but the plot is always very character motivated too, at least with our stories.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's very much like, okay, let's see what we need them to do for the plot. Let's see what we need them... how we need them to grow. Let's see... oh, we don't know how we need them to grow? Then... that means that we need to look at what they have done so far in the story and see if there are any themes or stuff worth paying attention to that says, hey, we need they've done this so far, and how can we advance that, and how does that serve the story?
Yeah, I think this is a major thing, is that, like, backstory should service the present, not the other way around.
Yeah.
You're not looking to make a character now entirely to justify some story you created in the past that, like, no one's gonna read. You can, but what's really important... every character, every plot point, This is, yeah, I'm definitely gonna be able to understand this right now. Into the factory. Okay, go into the factory. I know exactly where that is. That's actually pretty easy. All right, so here's the deal. You don't want your characters to have zero purpose in the story you're writing, obviously. Like, that's clear. So you want your characters to thematically serve the story and vice versa. This means that whatever the backstory is should be servicing why the character's themes are important, why the character is currently the way they're acting, what they believe in. I always, like, we went back and we're like, okay, why does Tess act the way she does, right? We didn't say, how can we make Tess justify this TFT?
Yeah.
We said, how can this TFT explain current Tess? That's kind of how I would describe it, right? It's okay. Figure out what you want the character to be right now. And again, backstories are great. I'm not trying to say that backstories aren't good. I just see a lot of people who get so knee deep into backstory that they never write the story.
Yes.
And you don't want, the story is more important than the backstory. The backstory is, it's why people are always like, I have, yeah, we're getting all the support.
Yee! Hey, Pats!
We get, you know, it's like, hell, I'm gonna trip you up, you ugly brute. Come here, come here, come here. Ready? 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 Like, when you're planning out, you see those Twitter threads where people are like, me when my OC's lore will never get seen, you know, that whole thing? And I'm like, the reason your OC's lore is never going to get seen is because you made all this lore as a backstory to a story that doesn't exist. Tell the story.
Yeah.
If the story is so interesting, tell it. And if it's not interesting, then it's not the story. Like, if a backstory of your character is more interesting than the current story, that's probably not the best character, in my opinion. Like, you don't want a character to be like, I'm a grumpy old man. I used to be having crazy adventures, and you're not going to hear about those, but now I'm grumpy. Like, I'm not saying backstories can't be cool and interesting, but I have yet to think of a character. Like, so here's the deal. The Silmarillion technically has some epic adventures in it, right? It's got, like, wars and, like, an elf that, like, gets, like, strung up as a battle flag. The body of an elf used the battle flag against the elves. It's crazy violent, crazy dark. No one reads the Silmarillion because it's just chock full of information. It's not presented as a story, but it's like a Bible. That's cool, but the Lord of the Rings is a story, right? And it doesn't require you to know all the knowledge of the appendices and the Silmarillion. They're cool.
Hey, Corbin,
But
thank you so much for following.
thank you. Okay. Why don't you give some more thoughts while I try to get into this building?
You got it. So, piggybacking off of the if your backstory is more interesting than your current character, and then also just the dangers of too much backstory. When my husband and I used to do a lot more role playing on like community role playing sites, mushes for those in the know. There were always these application processes where you had to write like your character's whole backstory before you could be even considered to go on the grid. And we were like, okay, yeah, that makes sense. You need to make sure that we understand the world and how we fit in, etc. But it always turned out that, one, we thought of all of the stuff about the character that could be thought of before we even got a chance to play the character, and two, that like inevitably the backstory was always way more interesting than the current character, because you're coming up with this cool story and you're like, cool, I will never be able to match this with whatever I do in the game, because in the game I'm going to be restricted. And so over time we kind of learned that we hate processes where you come up with the whole character at the start, because part of writing and making a good story is letting things develop naturally and exploring. Like, you're here to cut your way through the jungle and find where all the interesting parts are, but you can't do that if you've already, like, nailed down a shitty little treehouse at the start, right? Like, it's really amazingly stifling to do it that way. And it's the same goes for writing your own stories. And let's see, what was the other thing I was gonna say? was gonna say
Hello, Toon Kid. Also, yeah,
hello.
yeah, I mean, it's my first time playing, as you can see, because I am so confused right now. I kind of wish that I weren't playing what is clearly one of the hardest parts of the game, brain-wise, the part where I want to talk about backstories, and I'm like, I don't want to try with another. Okay, Caitlin, where do I go? I just want to move over the story, and I don't want to I don't want to get stuck here for hours. How do I get in this place?
Okay, so have you
The game
already
has a, the
brought
game
the
has a,
robot his
Clementine the
gear?
photo. The last thing I did was I brought Clementine the photo.
Okay, you brought Clementine the photo.
A lot of talking to characters and showing them items that requires way more like involvement in the dialogue than I'm capable of right now.
Yeah,
So I'm
yeah.
like very confused. Give me the platforming.
I would say load up a guide.
Yeah, I guess that's true. Find the contact. I'll try a few, and then if I can't find it, I'll look
I
at it.
think it's the guy who's standing outside of the factory.
A bomber jacket and a gold chain. Okay,
Yeah.
cool. Oh, you're wearing not a bomber jacket. All right, that helps. I just didn't notice that in the dialogue exactly. All right,
There you
anyway,
go.
keep going. Go for it.
Okay. That's a good question. What happens next? So yeah, leaving myself open to and ourselves open to improvisation in uh what why is a character here? Sometimes it can be annoying. Like, I know that one of our biggest issues right now is trying to figure out what the hell we're doing with Parsley from Tamerlane, and like what his motivations are and where they fit in, and like what his ultimate arc is, because he his introduction to the story, we realized, is completely counter to how his character ended up, which is going to be edited a little bit in the future. There's no clear forward movement, especially since a lot of the characters who wound up being central to the story, surprise, surprise, were either randomly created on the spot by me or they were cameos. And basically, I created a lot of the cast to kind of cycle in and out as parts. Like, here, I need someone to do something right now. You'll do it. And then you'll leave, and we won't ever hear from you again, and that'll be great. And then now Ari's like, no. Look at how this person can serve the story. And I'm like, ah, shit, you're right. Now we gotta, like, do things. Ah, crap.
There are some negative side effects to it. Like, for instance, we have to accept less cameos than we did before.
Yeah.
But part of why is I didn't want the cameos to just be you appear and disappear. I wanted to be like, this is a story, and a story needs to have thematic resonance, and it has to have some consistency across the board.
Yeah.
And
Also, as soon as I finish this drawing, I will do another Doodle raffle. Thank you for redeeming, Keeper. Please continue.
I will say, Toon Kid, if you are worried about Joy-Con drift, I don't have that problem anymore for two reasons. One, right now I'm using like one of the Pro controllers, but I also got this. I forget the name of the brand. I got a larger set of controllers that can be used on the Switch, both wirelessly and non-wirelessly, that are larger than the original and have zero drift. And it's I think it's like $45 for a pair. It's not bad. It's much better than the Joy-Con controllers are terrible. So I haven't had any problem with that. I'm gonna tell you guys something that maybe you haven't heard before. I already did this last time, but I'll do it again. Breaking Bad is a gold standard for some of the dispelling some myths about storytelling. People have this fear, as I think, who was it who said this? Someone up in a chat. Not with this game, but I've had Joy-Con terribly. My controllers are terrible. WD-40 can help, I think it is. If you have ever watched Breaking Bad, which I'm assuming a lot of people have at least seen some or have heard of, it's memed on now, so everyone knows about it, which is great. It's a good show. In season 2, something happens involving airlines that anyone who's seen the show knows exactly what I'm talking about. I'm not going to go into any further detail. For those, it was one of the more controversial decisions on the show, and people said it felt a little contrived. Now, here's what's interesting. That was pretty much the only thing in the entire show that was pre-planned.
Huh.
Where they came up with it at season 2's beginning and were like, let's work to that. Let's make that the ending we want, right? After that, they realized that the story Breaking Bad, other than that, was entirely written as they went along. They would say, where are our characters now physically? Where are they mentally? Where are they with their goals? What do they want? And what would they do next? And he'd let the characters kind of show them where the story would go next. In season 5, Breaking Bad starts the season showing a character with like a beard and it's mysterious and it's a gun and all the stuff, and you're like, what's going on? And they were like, yeah, we didn't know. They were like, they just put it in. We were like, that'll be fun to figure out later. And as a result, there's a sense of discovery. And I'm not saying that is the only way to write a story, but it is to say this idea that writing as you go along is bad. I understand that it kind of happened because of Lost. Lost kind of created this impression that writing as you go along is this really bad thing that is bound to doom you. And that's not true. Writing as you go along fails when you sacrifice the story you are telling for a wider point you're trying to make without thought. Points? Yeah. Gremlin. Like, thank you, hater. I hate you. I'm gonna go on the back. Basically, where was I? Brain split 2 places. What was the last thing I said? I'm sorry. I'm trying to do both both things at once, so my brain is melting out of my ears.
I just spaced as well.
Oh, no worries. Okay. Basically, like, there's an idea that making your story goes along is bad. When you see these things fail, usually what happens is the writers get an idea, right? And I notice it's exactly the opposite of backstory. Yes, Al. It'll be more times. It is a gold standard, best example of TV writing out there in terms of consistency of story. Basically a perfect story. In the... you know what, Hector? I can scratch your face. Oh, I can't because you're a robot. That's how they get you. They're robots. That's why they made them. You can't scritch. Can't scritch. But I can knead so cutely. You'll have to let me in.
Yes, the raffle will be happening after I finish up this sketch.
Yeah. So don't sabotage yourself by planning nothing. Planning is good, but don't overplan to the point where you can't. Don't think that a new idea. It's kind of a form of that one fallacy, sunk cost fallacy, where you're like, I put so much time into this backstory, I can't leave it. Yes, you can.
Yep.
If your new idea is better, killing your darlings is the best thing ever. It's so fun.
I love killing my darlings.
It's so fun.
It is the best.
What are they talking? For everyone's like, what are these psychos talking about? Let me flip with killing your darlings. I'm not killing my cats. I'm talking about killing your darlings is when you have a great idea in a story and you're like, oh, I love this idea so much, and then you're like, maybe I should do something else. Maybe this idea, maybe it'd be like, for example, if Caitlin were to suddenly decide, what if I didn't make Tamberlane Belfry's like kid? That didn't happen, but that would have been an example of like a darling that could have been killed early in development for other ideas. Yeah. Always consider the possibility that if you're stuck, it's because something's not working. And part of why endings often fail is that I watched a show recently on Netflix called Kipo. I love Kipo. It's a great show. But they had a problem, which was in season 3, they clearly came up with a really good finale. And it was a good finale. They had a great idea for finale. And they kind of were like, okay, now that we know how we're going to end the show, and we're not at that place yet, let's kind of yada forcibly get our way through season 3 just to get to that ending. Like, there's a lot of moments where I was like, this isn't that interesting. They were just placing a bunch of pieces in a row so that the ending could happen. And to me, it's like, you're disservicing 1/3 of the show for one episode. Don't ever feel like, if you have a really cool ending in mind and want to work there, that's cool, but never be afraid to like take that idea and be like, maybe this isn't the right way.
Yeah.
Backstories should service what you are writing. What you're writing should not service a backstory because no one's reading the backstory. It would be silly to be like, oh yeah, I'm writing a story about a guy who lives in a shed. And you're like, okay, that sounds kind of okay. What's the story about? Well, he lives in a shed. All right, what's the story? You know, he tills the ground. All right, this sounds kind of boring. Well, you see, this character actually is from a great war. You're like, well, then do that story. What are you talking about? Like, your backstory can be very interesting, but it should service what's currently happening. And again, here's an example of how you could tell that guy in the garage. let's say, or guy living in the shed, if you are using his mental detaching that he went through from being in that war, that's the story you're telling. That's interesting. Now you're focusing on the results of that backstory. But if the backstory is just rule of cool, and now you're just telling an arbitrary story, the only time people, the most common way, frankly, people tend to implement, I think,
I agree with Corvid. The backstory is only important if it brings context to a character and why they are the way they are.
yes, I think people tend to like, uh,
Also, real fast, I'm starting the next Doodle raffle, and
heck yeah, I'm
the
pulling the
command
bride. I
is
can't keep doing this.
exclamation rigged. Question: is it okay for a backstory to justify a character's near perfection if the audience won't ever see it?
That kind of delves into a complex question, which is what is a near perfect character? If you mean this character can do no wrong, but they only got there because of this trial that you won't see, I don't think that will be very effective for a reader, because the reader wants to see, you can end with the character getting to that place. For example, Total Last Airbender, he isn't perfect by the end, but man, he's come a long way by the end of that story. You wouldn't be, the story of Aang in, if you know Korra, that how like you see glimpses of like older Aang, the story of older Aang, in my opinion, is probably not as interesting as the story of younger Aang.
Yeah,
Now,
agreed.
I'm not saying a perfect character could be interesting, depending on what your context is. If they're the bad guy, ooh, yeah. But if they're a hero and they're perfect, the viewer isn't as invested, because viewers are paradoxical. They will tell you how mad they are that you are tormenting your characters, but all they actually want is for you to torment the character.
Congrats, Chris.
People love that stuff.
Go ahead and drop a link in the chat, and I will draw your character in a 5-minute time period. But yeah, people like there's definitely a very big paradox between, as a reader, like I like the most interesting stuff is going to be things that cause conflict, because that's what drives most stories forward. But at the same time, if you are very connected to a character, it's like, oh my god, you're hurting my baby. And I'm like, yes, and they will be better for it.
Yeah, also, I'm realizing exactly what the problem is. The problem is that they're expecting me to talk to everyone. It's a talking section, and I'm avoiding
Oh,
it. And the only way to move forward to the story is to talk to every individual, talk like a string of people,
yeah.
kind of thing. And I'm not in that gameplay mode, so I'm like, I was environment storytelling when I should have been dialogue storytelling. Yeah, that's a great good example. Yeah, like it's that's a good example. If a character is too nice and you're going to expand on it, is that being too nice hurting them in the story? Or is it making their life constantly easy? Or is it impacting their life in a negative way, is my
Yeah.
question. Where is the bar?
And knowing that it's going to be paid off later in the story is definitely different from this is not ever
They're
going to
nice.
be mentioned. Yeah.
Yeah, they're nice because they're nice or whatever. Like, hey you. That's Raz and Put, not the right guy. Where is the freaking... That's Jazam. Okay. Which of you is the one?
Enjoy your dinner, Scott.
Okay, this is the guy. Alright, cool. So clearly I have to knock something onto his head because I'm a cat. Let's do it. The joy I get from being able to be a gosh dang cat. I got into this game to be a cat, not to be a diplomat.
Here, you should put on your gremlin face because you're about to knock a thing over onto a guy.
Alright, y'all. You fool! Anywhere else you'd sleep and you would have been fine, but you chose your biggest mistake of your life. I killed him. You glad you're a robot. Yeah. All right. Goes back to work immediately. Oh my god. My brethren. We are the same. Lucky cat. That guy trip him up. Come on, fool. No!
Thank you, Chris.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Basically, what I look at is,
Okay.
here's how I would expand on that mod. So that's a great question. You have a backstory that led a character to become as nice as they are. Have another character in the story. There's a couple ways you can handle it. You can have another character in the story be resentful of how kind that character is and see it as a weakness. You can have their being kind become so trusting that people take advantage of that kindness. There are ways in which take whatever their traits are and find a way to exploit that trait. Even if it's a good trait, find a way to exploit it through badness to show this character, yes, they are very, very kind. They're very, very sweet. But people take advantage of that fact, and that's sad. But the reason they're this sweet is... And lay hints, right? Lay
Yeah,
little
definitely
hints.
lay
Of what that,
hints.
yeah, you would not imagine. Oh, are you for real? I will... Hot to get in the box. I'm not a fool. All right. I'm a cat. And the brand's called Neko. You're so clever, you fucks. You can see I'm
So
very grumpy right now.
cranky.
I'm very cranky. I don't like when I'm trying to talk and the game's like, talk to robots. I'm like, I don't care about the robots. I want to fight things.
Oh man, that's hilarious. All right.
Oh,
Yeah.
he's blushing. Look at him. Look at the perspiring. That's really cute. Makes no sense. Why you don't sweat? Why? It's not hard for you. You're metal. I don't understand. I love it.
Let's see. There was a thing that Meta told me, Ari told me, when we were early on working on Tamerlane stuff. That was, oh gosh, if you take something that is a part of a character trait and people are going to resent them for it or feel like there's a problem with it, shine a spotlight on it. Don't try to shy away from it. I can't remember the story you told. You should tell it. Of Star Wars, Clone Wars.
Oh my gosh. Oh yes. Okay. How many of you out there have heard of the character? I think it's Ahsoka or Ahsoka.
Yeah.
Beloved by fans. Everyone loves Ahsoka. They're like, oh, it's the greatest character. I love it. George Lucas is a genius. Oh my god. Now let's talk about this character, where they came from. Let's talk about Ahsoka. When that character is, I don't know if it's Ahsoka or Ahsoka. I've only seen the first season of Clone Wars. I loved it, but I just forget. It's been a long time. But when Ahsoka was introduced, people were not fond of the character. And here's the thing. It wasn't the situation where they put the character in, oh no! Let me quickly see what this says. I distract him, so head back to the apartment and post the robot teens. Okay, I talked about robot teens. Okay, I'll find robot teens. They weren't stupid. Right. They said, oh, we are about to introduce a teenage female character who is kind of a retcon in that she's not referred to in the classic trilogy or in the episodes. We're going to put her into the story as a big, major character, right? In a sci-fi. People are going to hate her. How can we fix that? And they said, well, what are the problems that people are going to have with her? And they made a list. They're like, well, people are going to find her annoying because she's a teenager. People are going to think she's a know-it-all because she's, like, telling the grown-ups what to do. So they made a list of everything they knew people were going to hate about Ahsoka. They made a list of, here are the things people hate. And they could have been like, well, let's avoid all those things. Oh, gosh. Instead, they were like, no. We're going to make all of those explicit, obvious character traits in episode 1. We're going to make her annoying to Anakin. We're going to make her constantly think she knows how to do everything right. They would make a list of everything that fans would hate about her, and they showed them front and center immediately. They weren't obtuse about it. And then they had the character dealing with the emotions of those things. Like, she was like, I know what to do, and then she got them into a bad situation and was like, oh, maybe I don't always know what to do. And then Anakin's like, no, but you do give good advice. You aren't dumb. You're smart. These are good advice. You can't always know the future. So they had her recognize, oh, maybe I shouldn't always think that I have all the plans. But instead of being like, yeah, shut up, they had Anakin be like, no, you're brilliant. And by putting us as a viewer on her side and seeing how what her weaknesses could be strengths and her strengths could be weaknesses. So they basically addressed all the things they knew people would hate about the character immediately, made it obvious so that everyone could just hate the character, get it out of the system, and then have the character address those head on, grow more mature as a person, recognize that she has ideas, but wisdom is as important as cleverness. Like, when you have a character and you're worried someone's going to be annoyed about the thing, don't avoid the thing. Don't be like, oh, people will hate the fact that my character is happy all the time. Cool. Fine. People are like that in the world. Instead, be like, okay, no, I'm going to take her happiness, his happiness, their happiness, put it front and center. Make it clear this character is so happy. Have other characters not be fond of it. Show where that happiness can be an exploitation, can be a weakness, but then show how it can be a strength and an asset.
Exactly.
And now your viewers will love that character. And they did that because Dave Filoni is a genius, and he suggested they do that. He was like, people are going to hate Ahsoka. Let's just make her irritating, make her a know-it-all, and then show why it's a strength and a weakness, and now she's complex. It's not an accident. It's intentional storytelling. So don't avoid the traits that you worry people are going to judge. Take those traits and explore them, right? As traits. Make them traits. Every trait a character has, every single trait on the list that they ever have, you should know why it's terrible and why it's amazing, right? Like, you shouldn't have a trait that's like, yeah, it's bad, sucks, bad. Be like, okay, this character is, I don't know, a gambling addict, and that's terrible. But why do they get a rush out of gambling? Has it ever served them well in life? Is it possible that they are able to quit gambling and but in some instances, their risk-taking is an asset? Or if it never is, how do they learn to overcome it? Like, don't ever judge a character the way that your viewers will and then decide that it's not worth it, right?
Yeah.
Exactly the opposite. And yes, 100% Corbett, Ahsoka literally makes Anakin a good character. Which is amazing, and it's so ironic that so many Star Wars fans can be so toxic about female characters when Ahsoka is so beloved, and literally, it goes to show you that, like, it's a two-way street, right? Rey is a character who I like Rey, but I think that the writer should have been more willing to be explicitly dealing with her flaws that she had.
Yes, 100%.
And be like, okay with that. It's okay. You don't have to be so conscious that your character's too good, too noble. Cool. They're noble. Maybe partly wise because they're naive. Maybe that nobility means that they sacrifice about more than they should, and their family worries about them. Maybe that nobility makes someone else feel resentful because they feel like they're not good enough. Like, there's so many ways you can use that goodness. And the backstory services it, right? Like, backstory should service the character, but it cannot be the only justification for the character being that way. The character's reason for being as they are. If a character's nice, or they're mean, or they're whatever, it should have a present. You should think, why does this backstory and why does this character's behavior impact the theme, or why is it the theme? Don't write just for themes. Obviously, don't backwards write for themes, but you'll find that your story has themes very quickly. It just happens. People just have ways of thinking, right? Actually, you want to know a reason why it happened with Hermione? J.K. Rowling, who, hate her, but when she wrote Hermione, she said, I wanted to write me. I was a bit of a know-it-all teenage kid and thought I knew everything, and that was kind of rough. And unfortunately, I think she's kind of gone back to thinking that. But there was this period of time where she was addressing the idea that she was a know-it-all. And yes, Hermione was smart and got them out of trouble, but also her know-it-allness kind of put people off of her, and she was kind of socially outcasted for a while.
Yeah.
The reason Hermione didn't work in the movie is simple. Well, Emma Watson is great. Steve Kloves, the writer of all but one of the Harry Potter movies, thought that Hermione Granger was the best character that had ever existed and thought Ron was the worst. He hated Ron.
Oh, no.
I don't know why. So he gave all of Ron's best moments to Hermione and gave all of Hermione's worst moments to Ron, basically. There's a great example of this. In Harry Potter 3, there's a moment where Hermione is there with Harry and Ron, and they're under the Whomping Willow, or they've gone to the Whomping Willow, and they're now in Hogsmeade, and they're at the Shrieking Shack. It's a lot of weird words. Harry Potter's a lot of weird stuff going on. And they're facing this hardened criminal they think is going to kill them, and they're terrified. Hermione and Harry are scared. Ron has had his leg bitten through by a massive dog, and he's bleeding and on the bed and injured. And he sees this guy, but he steps off the bed. And Ron's an annoying guy, right? He's kind of too jokey and kind of selfish, but man, he's loyal to his friends. And he stands up on his injured leg and he limps in front of Harry and says, "You're not getting to him unless you go through me first." And it's one of my favorite Ron moments because it just gives him strength. And just Hermione is so book smart, but in this terror situation, Ron steps up where he's not the most book smart character, right? He's just not.
Yeah.
He's not the most book smart. In the movie, Hermione, who does all the book smarts, steps in front and blocks the way, and Ron's just on the bed whining because he's hurt.
Yeah.
They took that away from him. And it's an example of a writer wanting to give one character all these great moments, but not realizing that giving a character terrible moments is giving them good moments.
Yeah. Exactly.
Giving a character bad moments is saying, "I love this character." It sounds twisted and toxic, but in stories, putting your characters through bad shit is a way of showing that you care about the character and want to tell the story. It can get to a point where you're just being cruel for no reason.
Yes.
If you hate a character, here's my philosophy. If you hate a character, give them a bunch of wins.
Yes.
If you love a character, make them lose all the time. Don't give a character you hate a bunch of loses because I hate him. Watch me beat him up. It's like, okay, well, this is just sadistic. You just hate this character.
Yeah.
But if you give a bad character a bunch of wins and give your good character a bunch of losses, people hate the villain more because they keep gosh dang winning, and people love the protagonist because he just can't seem to get it right, but is trying. People care way more about, when they say they care more about the journey than the destination, people do care about endings. But what they really mean, I think, is that people don't love a character for them ending up being noble. People don't love Luke Skywalker because he ended up being a good Jedi. People love Luke because he was tempted, because he struggled, because he fought and he kept failing and finally won. People don't love him because of people care way more about episode 5 Luke than they do about episode 7 Luke or episode 8 Luke. I mean, episode 8 Luke. Episode 8 Luke, I actually like episode 8 Luke. I liked most of Rise, whatever it was, The Last Jedi, right? I liked most of The Last Jedi. I had some weak parts, but I liked that they were like, no, Luke's still a fucked up guy. He's a human being who's been through trauma and is terrified of reintroducing he joined this religion and is terrified of reintroducing it to the world because he doesn't want to bring it back. He's like, why? Why would I reintroduce what led to that? And I respect that decision over just being like, no, he's just a wise guy now. No one just becomes wise and is done cooking. That doesn't happen.
Yeah.
So I liked that decision. I understand people didn't like that decision. I think why I liked it is that that's what makes a character interesting and worth investing into, is why they are weak.
Yeah.
Not why they're strong. Because you can't be... The best phrase I can use when it comes to backstory development for a character and a character's overall sense of being is you cannot be brave if you aren't scared.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you see a cockroach and you're like, I am literally not scared of these things, they give me no impact, and to stomp on it, you're not being brave. You don't care.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
if you see a cockroach and you're like, I have a fear of cockroaches. Oh god, oh god. And then you put a bow on it. You get a plate. You take it out. You put it outside. That was brave.
You got an epic journey there.
Yeah. Bravery cannot exist without fear to lead it. You cannot have a character have a good trait without a reason. You cannot have a character win without a struggle. So if a character is really, really, really the strongest character, okay, Superman, right? Oh, that's me. I hate cockroaches. Superman is an interesting example of this, right? I'm freaking terrified of cockroaches. I hate them.
Yeah, same. It's interesting. I am afraid of arachnids and insects, not because I think they will hurt me, but because they might walk. The walking is what freaks me out.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Have you ever noticed, when a character in a story will do that thing where, they seem really brave, and they seem stoic. They seem stoic. They don't care. And they just, beat up the bad guys. But then you learn later, they reveal that they actually are terrified, and they're like, no, okay, I hate to bring up Harry Potter again. It has some good tropey examples.
That's fine.
Dumbledore is the stoic old man who can do no wrong. And I remember as a kid, the most impactful moment I've ever experienced in a book at that age was when Harry comes to Dumbledore and is like, "Why haven't you been talking to me this entire year? I've been going through so much. Why won't you talk to me?" And then it says, Dumbledore lifted his head and Harry saw that his eyes were full of tears. And he basically said to Harry, "I'm a weak, weak man. I'm weak." And you were just like, oh, now he's an interesting character suddenly.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
interesting. So when you see Aragorn battle the ring race, and if his face was just like, I don't care, you wouldn't think he was brave. But when he's like, ring race are a serious threat. I have to face it, but then you're like, oh, he's being brave. He's brave. And the more you can show a character is facing something they don't want to face, but they do anyway, the more you care. So, for example, backstory can be a great way to establish fear in a character. But you have to make it clear that fear is there. You can't be like, yeah, I know my character hates cockroaches, but I don't tell them that. You got to make sure you have to make sure the audience is aware of whatever the fears might be, right? They have to be clear to the audience, or else the audience isn't gonna care. Yeah, I love the way Luke put it. The difference between apathy and bravery is a great way to put it. Is this how do I? Okay, let me see. Second floor, one of the cameras. Okay, I understand. Okay, I'm very slowly progressing through the game. Like I'm snail's pace, but I do want to finish this game eventually, so I'm gonna try to do this. All right. Yeah. So all that to say, your backstory should service your character, and your character, even if your character is the traits they have been given by the back. If you're like, oh, I have a character with these great, nice, wonderful traits because they went through trauma and dealt with it before the story started, cool. You don't have to have all their worst moments now, but you have to explain on some level why we should care.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
If the character has no struggles and is perfect, then no one will care. They just
Also,
won't.
see a tune, and also thank you, Azure, for following
Thank you.
belatedly, and also yes, I hydrated, and yes, I checked the points. Okay, now I have said my piece.
Yes. No, 100%. And yes, Corvid. We don't imagine if Courage didn't care.
Like, what a
Imagine if he was
boring
more brave.
show.
What is more brave the normal dog? He's called Courage, the cowardly dog. Who is Courage, the brave dog? What a boring show that would be. I am fighting the big man. These teens respect me now.
Let's see. What other things can we say about whatchamacallit?
Ask as many questions as you have. Maybe don't ask specific. Like I would say, we can't necessarily give specific story advice of like about John, whatever. But if you have like a general issue or thought about what you want to ask, absolutely. If you're like struggling with a backstory topic, that's what we're here for. Glad to
Yeah.
help.
Also, Keeper, I will do the next Doodle raffle after I am done with this sketch. Thank you for redeeming.
Oh, destroy 3 security. See, that guy was clear. There and where is the third one? I do not know. There is a third one. Where did it go? I don't know what to do. I'm stuck being a cat.
I would also like to point out, just for sake of
Yeah.
reassurance, I suppose, that if you are writing a story and you find that you need to fix up the backstory, so you go through and you fix up the backstory, and you're like, cool, I've done it, everything's better now, and then like 2 chapters later, you're like, oh god, no, everything is not better now. It's fine. That's normal. You will
Yeah. Oh god, the
have to
panic is
go
starting
through and
fun.
fix it a million times because honestly, like if you're telling a syndicated story, what you're missing out on is edits, and the edit phase of like a novel where you complete the novel first. That is majorly where all of this stuff happens. And as part of a syndicated story like a webcomic or a web series or a TV show or whatever, you kind of have to squeeze in the edits where you can, and sometimes you just have to go back and fix things. And you know what? That's fine, and we should allow that because that's important.
Yeah, that is fantastic advice. I think it's a really major thing to consider is that like people, it's like going to a bakery and they give you a cake and you're like, man, I wish I could make cake with this by putting random things from my fridge into an oven for an indeterminate amount of time and this it appears. It's like, no, there are steps. Writing, you're getting the end result of a lot of work, probably the 100th draft of that dang thing.
Yeah.
The first draft of anything is gonna be terrible. It's going to be terrible. And first draft doesn't mean, like, if you write a webcomic and you write a page by page, I wouldn't consider that a first draft. It is kind of a first draft, but you are having to, when you write a story page by page by page, you're getting a sense for the response through each page and you're editing as you go along, right? You're like, by page 10, what you had in mind on page 1 might not be true anymore. But I wrote Mothorial ahead of time and oh my god, it's been through like 7 drafts. It keeps getting changed. Okay, how about a character who has repressed or forgotten their past? I have a character like that. It is a splendid funding, and it absolutely is a great example of how... Hey, that's an example of how you use backstory to service the story, right? The very lack of the knowledge is, in fact, part of the backstory. It's part of the... Like, there's probably a reason in that backstory. Like, you don't have to have a character know or even be able to explain to others why they act the way they do. You don't even have to explain to the audience every single bit of the backstory, necessarily ever. You just have to make sure that whatever the traits of the character have now are interesting to watch. Whether or not they're good or bad, they have to have good and bad aspects to them. Then we have, I am no veteran writer who began to publish my first works. And my issue is that I'm struggling with words in general because I feel so smart in my head. When I try to explain, it comes out as a garbled mess. Yes, I actually struggle with that myself.
Same.
Which might sound weird because I talk a lot on stream, but oh, look at them go! Yeah, wait, I'm getting on this.
Meow.
First time this cat had fun. Time the rap number. There we go. So I'm gonna be honest with you. That's what editing is.
Yep.
The first draft, you just write. Okay, perfect example. Someone said they write when they write their story, they hate pausing to look things up. Every time they ever have a city, town, country, anything, they just put the word Brazil. And then later they go back and say, okay, find all Brazil, and they go back and they work through all the Brazils. So
yeah, I usually put XXX.
Yes, if you don't feel some people have what I would call, and I've had this, thesaurus syndrome, where they're like, okay, I want to sound I want to be meticulous with my word use. I'm gonna go through, and every time I come to a place where I have a thought in my head of what I want to say, I'm gonna pull out the dictionary, find the vaguest word, go to the thesaurus, find a better word, and use that. And that can be good occasionally, but eventually you'll get into what's called it's like a verboseness that is overwriting. What I would suggest for you, Corvid, is to just write the story down and don't care about the quality of the prose. I know that can feel embarrassing, but most first drafts don't have very good prose. It's normal. It's normal as a writer to you want to get the ideas down first, and then you want to go back over it and because think about it, right? Sentence crafting is a different skill than story crafting. Well, a lot of writers try to do both at once. Craft your story first, put the words down on the page that get the story done, even if the words are not the best words, even if they're the wrong word, as long as you know what the word's meant to be. And if you don't have the word, write in parentheses, word that means this, and move on. Just move on. And then you have unlimited time to go back and edit that thing and craft every sentence to be exactly what you want it to be, like a poem, right?
This is a skill that I have had to get very comfortable with because of brain fog. A lot of the times my brain no longer works the way I want it to, and there's a lot of times where I'm trying to say a sentence and I just lose half of it and can't remember it. So and for a long time, I refused to say anything that wasn't perfectly crafted, and likewise refused to write anything that wasn't perfectly crafted. And that just meant I was silent forever. And so I have had to work very hard on learning how to just start splattering everything out of my brain into a document or to out loud to my husband or whoever I'm talking to, and basically I am reaching out to either the person I am talking to, or in the case of writing, my future self, and saying, listen, as Gunny put it when I was working with him, here is my pile of sticks. Please make a log cabin out of it. I can't right now, but I can get my intent across, and I can get my ideas across in such a way where it might be incomprehensible nonsense unless you squint. But you know what? Later, you'll have the time that you can sit down and parse it out, and then turn these terrible sentences into polished diamonds. And that is how you get your first, or dare I say, your 0th draft out. You just splatter. Just go.
Yeah, this is kind of the secret to writing, really, is that there's 2 phases, which are there's the writing and the editing. Writing, however, has more. Writing, you can break writing down into more than just writing, right? Writing can include the story dev. It can include the backstory development. It can include, because it can, like, there is some pre-planning that can be good. It's good to have a sense for kind of what you want. It's nothing wrong with that. But you want to leave the pre-planning stage relatively quickly and allow it to be, you want the planning, the pre-production stage to go relatively quickly, and allow your backstory dev and your planning to somewhat work concurrently with your writing, to happen along with it, rather than spend eternity. Otherwise, you're going to be spending eternity planning and never get to writing, because as soon as you get to writing, you're going to start thinking you're doing the sentence crafting. You're not.
Yeah. Yep.
You are getting that story onto the page, and then you are doing the sentence crafting, the editing, the word choice. You want to have a full document done before you worry about the words you use. And that sounds insane, but it's true. It's the only way to write. And sometimes you'll surprise yourself. Sometimes you'll write in your first draft and you'll hit a beautiful sentence. I read this book called Bird by Bird by Anne Lamott. And
I
it's
love that book. It's so good.
So good. And I believe it was that one that talked about, one topic she talked about specifically was this idea that, like, sometimes you'll hit some. It was her, and there's another author I read too, I forget who it was, who both talked about how, like, sometimes you'll just hit something beautiful and it'll be amazing, but then you'll gaslight yourself because of that sentence to think that every sentence has to be like that, and you'll be like, oh, I'm not good, I lost it, I lost the spark I had, oh god, I'm bad again. Writers who've written for 50 years will write a crappy sentence a lot still, and then they'll go back. Editing is the magic trick that makes writing work. You're not dumb at all. That's absolutely 100% normal. It is just part of the beauty of writing is that before Michelangelo, I'll bring up the classics again. Before Michelangelo carved David, he didn't just stick his hammer in the rock and go bam and, like, David appeared. He crafted a vague shape and then found it. He found it over time. He scraped it out. He scraped it. Writing is scraping. You're doing little bits at a time. You are not. Don't worry about the whole picture yet. Or actually, it's the opposite. How do I put this? I'm saying don't worry about every single sentence looking perfect. Worry about getting the vague shape there first, then detail work.
Right? Exactly. Also, time for another giveaway, another Doodle raffle.
Yeah.
To this time, the command is going to be !brain splat. How many?
Get dressed now, mind turning around. Yes, of course. Politeness.
So Luker, you need to make sure you put a T instead of a Y. Make sure. There you go. Just want to make sure you don't miss out. Okay, so I'm not a novelist personally. There is a novel project I want to work on, but that's very much on the back burner. So I will leave this one to Ari, who is more likely to do this.
Yeah, definitely. So here's the truth. Your mileage may vary, but I have found that. Okay, Stephen King writes about, used to write at his max about 6,000 words a day, which is absolutely insane. 4,000 to 5,000. That's why he wrote as many novels did. But here's the truth. Here's what I'm going to tell you. You look at people like Brandon Sanderson. People like, anyone here heard of Nora Roberts?
Ah, Nora Roberts.
The recognized Yeah, recognize. Actually, let me look up how many novels this woman has written.
While you do that, real fast, congratulations to Wolf. Hooray, you have won the Doodle. Drop your character link in the chat, and I will get to it, and do your Doodle. The other thing I want to say here is, as Ari is looking this up, for my side of things, there is one particular book that really, 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 really times a million helped me figure out how to write more. And it is part of that breaking down of the writing into steps. And that is this link right here, 2K to 10K, by one of my favorite authors, Rachel Aaron. And essentially, the skill it teaches is like, all right, cool, so you want to write this scene. First, you like do a vague outline of the scene, the kind of vague beats of where you want to go, beat, beat, beat. And then you're like, cool, I've done it. And then you're like, all right, now I need to take each of those beats and break down that into like the little sub beats of what happens for that bullet point. And then you basically like keep working on this outline until it's like it's fairly well done. And then when you actually sit down to write, it's all figured out. All you have to do is the writing part. Oh, don't die.
I lived. The cat lived. The cat came back the very next day. The cat came back. They thought it was gone, but the cat came back. He could stay away.
This is a ditty upon our or a ditty done by our musically inclined Ari Metajoker.
I wish I'd written that song. but I will perform it. I will perform it. Gosh dang it! Love that song. Anyone who looks it up, it is a twisted song and I adore it. It's like at the end, it talks about how the atom bombs came down and destroyed. It says Russia's gone, English gone, and the USA, but the cat came back the very next day. You're like, oh my god! It's so good.
But yeah, so if you are struggling with page count, which is not the be all and end all of metrics, but if you want to be able to smooth out the writing process, I recommend that book.
Okay, I want to ask also, okay, Caitlin, just for kicks, what do you think? I want you to guess. Okay, obviously, books are somewhat, you know, thematically similar, but I want you to try to guess how many. Oh, shoot! The cat came back the very next day. The cat came back, thought it was gone, but the cat came back and just couldn't stay away. So basically, how many books do you think Noah Roberts wrote, Caitlin? I want you to guess.
It's got to be at least 200.
225 and counting.
Oh my god, yeah.
And someone asked her, yeah, it must be. Of course, she's writing a lot of the same genre, so she knows how to write the patterns effectively. That's cool. But how do you think? How do you think she did it? People will ask her, like, how do you have so many books? And she'll say, get in the box, you stupid cat. Get in the.
Wow, is that what she says?
No, she gets in the box. She's getting the box. And you're like, you might think she's like, I write 20,000 words a day.
She just writes a little bit every day, right?
She writes. Okay, now Nora Roberts is a bad woman. She writes 8 hours a day.
Oh my gosh, that's someone who loves writing.
Yeah, she says she's written 8 hours every day since she started. And doesn't take vacations because she likes writing so much. She'll do it when she's on vacation. She just loves it that much. And that's wonderful.
That is wonderful.
My advice to you is, I would treat it the way you treat reading. People often say, "Man, I keep wanting to finish my books, but I can't seem to get myself through these books." Right? You know that whole story. The best advice for reading is to read a little every day. Time is easier than amount. Start by saying, I'm going to read 30 minutes a day. So start by writing 30 minutes a day. Even if you only get 200 gosh dang words on that page. And if you get to that 200 and you're like, I really want to write more, go for it. But guarantee yourself a minimum amount of time that you will sit down and try. That's what I would start. People will say do 600 words a day. I think that's a sure sign for discouragement because you won't get to the goal. You can't always get to a numerical goal. You can absolutely get to a time goal, even if you just sat there, you put the time in.
Yeah, you want to shoot for an average. If you're going for a word count, shoot for an average over your lifetime, not a daily.
Yeah. So instead, take a certain amount of time every day, and you'll find that it's a lot easier for you to commit time. So I would say start with 30 minutes before bed and see how that fares for you.
Agreed. Timer method also works great for art.
Also worth mentioning, I think it was whoever was that person who was talking about. Oh yeah, the Anne Lamott thing. For those who don't know, Anne Lamott, fun fact, did not actually say to do a first draft. She said first drafts are a bad idea. She said write your 0th draft.
Yes, that is the correct term.
And what she meant by that specifically was... what she meant by that was, when you write people say, I want to write my first draft, and it's gonna be bad. And then they write and they go, this isn't good enough. This sucks. She said, think of it as this is literally nothing. Don't put weight and credit on this first draft. The 0th draft is, I wrote a word on the book page. That's all it is. You wrote a word on the book page. Is it good? It doesn't matter. It's 0. But if you wrote it, you wrote it. And that's what matters, because you'll find that every human being is 100%, unless they're completely narcissistic, is definitely more capable than they think they are. You are almost certainly better at what you do than you think you are. People out there will care more about what you've done than you think they will. So your best advice is to write a little every day, do it by time rather than by word count until you've got a good rhythm going. And, like for instance, if you write 30 minutes every day, over time you'll find that you are able to write more in that 30 minutes. Then over time you might find that you want to dedicate an hour. Then you'll find that you write more in that hour, right? And Brandon Sanderson... I'm going to pull up Brandon Sanderson's work schedule, because I think it'll validate everyone here.
Also, I would like to say... oh no, I immediately lost it. Shoot! Oh no! Okay, I'll think on it. Never mind. I had beautiful, valuable things that would change your life.
Let's think about what I had said. It was response to what I said, the 0th draft idea of write something every day. You'll get better. You'll write more every day. A little more will happen. Eventually, that's kind of what I was going for. I don't know if that's completely relevant.
It's something to do with that, but I don't remember what it was. So I will come back to that.
Absolutely.
Okay, no, I got it. I remember. Okay. Something my partner Gray says that is absolutely true is that you look at things that are objectively bad, like say some particular types of very odd cinema. Let's go with The Room as the most popular example. And you look at that and they are still better than anything that you have, any idea you have, because they made it. And just think, if you just made your thing, even to your worst possible capabilities, it'll probably still be better. So get to it!
Yeah, it's very true. At the very worst, your thing will be a cult favorite.
Right?
Here, I'm going to read, because Brandon Sanderson, for those who don't know much about him, is the most open author that exists, and I love him dearly. I love him to death. I think he's wonderful. He's the kind of person who, grew up in religion, and so he had, at one point, was kind of mixed thoughts about gay marriage, and then recently he was asked about it, and rather than hiding away, he was like, yeah, I had bad ways of looking at these things when I was younger, and I want to address that and be honest. He's such an honest person who's changing and growing and learning, and I love him for that. And one time he was and he also is prolific as hell. This guy has written everything ever. It's astonishing. Now, someone asked him, what on earth is your work schedule? He said, here, I'm going to read his quote. So I hide in this box. So my crazy schedule is not as crazy as you think. It's just a little crazy. I go to bed at 4. So, let's start. He goes to bed at 4 a.m. So late nighters, you are not alone. He gets up at noon. Okay, so he gets 8 hours sleep starting at 4. This is not an early night sleeper kind of guy. I did not become a writer so that I could keep the job that a working staff would have. My writing schedule is generally, I do one big block from around noon So when he gets up till 5, so he gets up and does 5 hours of writing. This is his full-time job. It's all he does. I hang out with my kids and my wife for about 5 to 10. So he does 5 hours of writing and then 5 hours of fun, family, special time for himself. And then from about 10 until 2 or 3, he does another writing block. And then about an hour or 2 of playing video games before he goes to bed. So the secret to my productivity is not much of a secret. It is that I work every day. I just get up and I write. I don't always publish what I write. Some of what I write doesn't work, but I like writing. I like telling stories. The creative process is really engaging to me. It's what I like doing, so I do it every day. And it's not I'm not a really fast writer. I'm just really consistent about it.
Exactly.
That thing. He is not someone who says, "Oh yes, I write 8 million words a day." He says, I just write a lot. He just writes a lot. So write a lot time-wise, and you'll have a large turnout. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Like, okay, one of the main reasons I've been able to do as much Tamberlane as I have, even with all my other obligations, is that I set aside at least 1 day a week to explicitly work on pages. Because if I didn't do that, I would fall behind. And also, I love doing pages. It, like, soothes me. It makes me so happy. And when I have to go a long time without doing pages, I get itchy. So, like, the last 2 weeks, I haven't been able to work on it. Today, I finally managed to do some, and I was just like, oh, yes, I'm doing pages again.
Yes. Find the thing that you absolutely love doing, and it'll go a long way, right?
Yeah.
No one can see me. I don't exist. I am a... These robots were not... Isn't it kind of weird? I want everyone to pause for a second. My cat is strolling around in this, and the robots aren't spotting him. Like, the robot androids. Bro, everyone in this world is metal. Aren't they tuned to look at metal that moves? It's literally like a robot. Look, it's a robot. Stupid robot, but I am a robot nonetheless. How do I deal with this? What is the life of this cat right now? On, off, okay. Hey, buddy. What's your deal? Oh my god, it's a little robot. It's a little robot. Come here, buddy. Over here. I am learning.
You are learning.
I don't know what I'm learning. What is happening?
See you, Keeper. Have a good one.
Thank you. You say that, Izzy, but they were looking for me. They literally looked for me as a cat. They just didn't look for me as a barrel. America.
So clearly, they are on the alert for cat.
Yes, true. Specifically cat. All right, how about this one? What does this do? Do I need to, like... What the heck? This game is teaching me silly things. Okay. The stupidest. I don't know what to do. I'm so upset. Oh, wait. I have to get more of these guys. I see. See, this cat
Gotta just be the robot.
Hey, you. Come on. I need your advice.
I'm glad you like the picture, Wolf.
Yeah. Caitlin does amazing stuff. Who would have thunk it?
Wow. Thank you.
Yeah, Caitlin's so consistent. I wish my writing were as consistent as Caitlin's drawing.
You know what? Me too. I wish my writing was as consistent as my drawing. That would sure be nice. I could write so many great stories.
Yes. Alright, is this gonna work now? The battery! Y'all, it's over.
It's over,
Guys,
is it?
it's time to book it. Let's go.
Book it.
I will also throw this out for writers like me. There's two things that I think are worth considering. The first is that there's a lot less instant gratification for writers on social media than there is for artists. So if you feel like, man, as a writer, I'm not getting much like attention, I understand. It's just being a writer is a lot lonelier. It just is.
It is.
Another thing to keep in mind is when you draw art and you say, I drew a bat, and someone else goes, that doesn't look like a bat. What is that? You go, oh, what's wrong? Oh, the art, why does it have no wings? You go, oh, you're right, bats have wings. But if you write a page and you're like, I'm so proud of my writing, someone's like, I don't like your writing. Why? I just don't like the way you write. It's so impossible for that's a subjective medium.
Yeah.
So it's not that unlikely that you'll run into situations where, as a writer, you'll find that writing, it's easier to doubt yourself. Even if because good doesn't mean the same thing as a writer. As an artist, yes, there is style preference, but it's a little more clear cut when your art is working when it's not working. Even if you're not sure why. Writing, you could have a thing you've written and be like, why is this not working? I don't know. Something's wrong with the prose. That's why the best thing as a writer you can do is ask people to read what you've written, get feedback, read it aloud, be open to criticism, adore criticism. Criticism's the best thing ever. If someone says, I don't think this entire character works, be like, hot dang, I get to make it better. This isn't the best version the story can be? Wow.
Right?
So that's why I say don't be attached to your backstories. Don't be attached. Kill your darlings. Be willing to change and shift and learn as you write. Be willing to and write consistently, not for quality, but for time, because the quality will come with time. You can't get the quality without the time, right?
Yeah, yeah.
No, it's like a person being like, I want to carve a model in clay, and I want to do it in 5 minutes. And you say, that's going to take longer than 5 minutes, buddy. And they're like, but if I start drawing, and then they work on it for 5 minutes and they go, oh God, this looks like crap. I'm never going to finish it. It's like, no. Now you go back and you keep working on the clay structure, and you keep working out, you keep molding it and make it happen. You just got to get the vague shape. When you actually join pottery classes, they'll have you make the vague, kind of crappy form of a pot shape before you even get to the real stuff. You just kind of make a bowl. You just got to start somewhere. So, with backstory, let it be the flavor that allows a story to branch out from, not the point. I guess the way I put it is, don't get attached to your backstory so much that you just write your story to think of how cool it makes you feel about the backstory, if that makes sense. Your story should be the coolest thing you've written, and if the backstory is cooler, then
that's your story.
That's your story. Or you can incorporate the backstory into the story. You can have flashbacks. You can have a way of exploring it. You can write a prequel that ties into it. Don't ignore good things, and don't waste your best material that no one will ever see.
Yeah.
All right. So they shut off the apartment complex. This person is look at this person. Oh my God. What is Siren Head?
Yeah.
Miko, you are my hero. You can steal our spot, but you can't steal our moves. Wait, they're gonna steal me? No! You can't steal a spot! No! Any more questions anyone has?
Yeah, any more questions about backstory? We got a nice, cool half hour. I am trying to think of some myself. And failing. Also, hello, welcome in, Apple. Yeah, making yourself a prequel. Or, a lot of times it really has happened for me that the backstory just turns out to be the story that I should be telling. Okay, when you come across conflicting backstories, how do you resolve them if they are of equal importance or already happened in the comic? Whew, something's gotta give. There's gonna be some editing happening. Oh, whoa, no!
I died! I thought it would be a different map!
Nope.
Oh, in the gosh dang hole! I made it to the hole! No. Okay. When you come across conflicting backstories, oh, that happened.
That
100%
happens
happened.
a lot.
That happened in Tamberlane a lot. Perfect example is we had like a timeline in place of when certain events occurred and when they definitely ended, and we realized that we had characters confirming that they were aware of certain things that they couldn't be aware of if they hadn't happened when they were alive, and it just was a whole nightmare scenario, and we had to reapproach everything, but we just kind of made it work, and like, kill your darlings, and yes, here's the thing, you can tweak a line or two if you need to in early things. We haven't had to do that yet, but like, if you're writing a novel, you will spot that stuff before you publish the book if you have good editors. And if you don't spot it before the book is published, then you have to
reprints.
you have to reprints, or if you don't have, because if people don't, you just gotta rework that stuff. You know, like here's a good example of an actual objective time that someone did rework a story. Is in the original publication of The Hobbit, Smeagol was actually quite polite to Bilbo and was like, you can have my ring. Oh, Princess, you can have our. All right, like Bilbo, you know.
That's not very polite. I'm
Gollum.
curious at what you think that politeness is.
No, Gollum basically was like, you can have the ring if we win this game, and it's like he would never give up that ring. What? So the answer is that made no sense. So he went back and he rewrote the Riddles in the Dark chapter and made it so the ring was more scary, and that Gollum didn't give it to him at all. And when he was asked, how are you justified? Yep, you can look it up on Wikipedia for like the old version. They have links to the old text. And he was asked why. So in the universe, There and Back Again is written by Bilbo. Bilbo wrote that book. That is the canon. Bilbo wrote that book. And so J.R.R. Tolkien, in a brilliant, brilliant move, which I think is wonderful, said, the reason the first draft of The Hobbit that we published, that version is the version that Bilbo wrote because Bilbo wanted people to think that he got the ring in a legitimate way because the ring was influencing him.
Ooh, nice.
It was out of a desire to make himself look noble and not admit that he'd stolen it. It was him hiding the truth, which is so intriguing and makes Bilbo seem flawed and not an honest storyteller. And the truth is, he stole that thing. He didn't get it as a gift. It wasn't a, you know what? Like Gollum said to Smeagol said about Deagle, it wasn't a present. When Gollum's like, I got it as a birthday present. No, he stole it. Bilbo says, I got it as a present. So he literally took an actual retcon that he had to do and he integrated it into the story, and I think that's brilliant. It's so cool.
Okay, so bouncing off of Gunny's question there.
This is how you really feel, meta.
How would you decide which is the more, like, okay, so you have to make changes, right? And you have two equally important backstories that are conflicting. How would you decide which one to go for? Like, which one takes precedence?
Okay, so you're saying, like, how often would you just make the characters for the sake of the story?
No, it's okay, so you have two characters. They have backstories that have been published already in the comic. And as you go along the story, you realize that both of these backstories are conflicting. And they are both equally important to the story. Something has to give. What do you consider?
I think I was reading Corbin's question. You're reading Azur's question.
Oh yeah, no, I am echoing. I'm continuing Gunny's question.
Ah, yes. Okay. The answer is and always will be whatever serves your story better. If your backstory is freaking awesome but is incompatible with the story, goodbye backstory, or I'll just change it. You can't, it's not worth a cool backstory that breaks your main story. You know what I mean? It just isn't worth it. Like, we realized that there were problems with the backstory that wouldn't make Tamberlane work, so we went back and we just edited it and honestly came up with a better answer.
Yeah. Oftentimes, coming up with a better answer is what happens.
Well, think about it this way. Every time you go back and you change your backstory, you're doing a new edit, a new draft. That's always going to help, right? Like,
yeah.
Corporate Curiosity asked, and this is what I was thinking, how often would you make characters for the sake of the story to have things make sense? So do you mean, like, I'm gonna make sure I understand this question. Do you mean like creating a character that's intent is to explore the story's themes? Is that what you're saying?
I think creating brand new characters for the sake of the backstory, perhaps.
So basically, I am always a big proponent of the idea that plot and character should be tied together completely, and that your scenes of plot should in some way, whether metaphorically or literally, reflect the themes of the characters and reflect the journeys of the characters. If a character struggles with, like, I don't know, again, we'll go gambling addiction, you want the things they encounter to, you want sometimes, you want most of their failures to reflect their weakness. And gambling is not reflective of literally, it doesn't mean every time they have a thing, it's a poker table. It means maybe they like taking risks when maybe they shouldn't. It means maybe they don't always think 100% of the ending consequences. It means maybe they're impulsive. So make the things that they face reflect where they are currently at and testing them at the place they're at. So they face a challenge and they're tested and eventually they overcome it, but then they have a new test that's even harder. And then but then here's the brilliant part. You find a way for some aspect of what that is weak about that character. Like the gambling addiction, maybe that impulsiveness does something good too. It's not that everything about them is miserable and bad and terrible. Maybe the thing is they have to overcome it, but also because they're impulsive, they're able to like take action when no one else could in a bad situation, right? You can find the weaknesses and strengths that I talk about. So what I would say is when it comes to characters for the sake of story, the story should always be for the sake of the characters. I think it should always be the other way around. I don't think your character should ever be created as a gateway to make the story happen. I think that the story should be a way of channeling what you're trying to say with the characters. And if you have a really cool plot line, it probably has... Every chessboard has its players, right? If you have a really cool story, surely that story requires characters in it navigating it, even though those characters aren't necessarily... Like, this cat in Stray isn't a traditional protagonist, right? He might not be able to talk and share thoughts with the viewer, but we're still viewing the world through his eyes and we're still getting his journey. Now, I would argue that one, not weakness of Stray, but one thing about video games specifically is that sometimes you can get away with a game where the main character isn't having an emotional journey because you, the player, are having fun. I don't think that this game is trying to make this cat overcome anything. He's just a cat. The robot character is the character with the journey. Stray is a blank catalyst for your feelings. You don't really have an example of that in main stories, unless it's like a choose-your-own-adventure, I guess. I would suggest don't create characters just to service the story and plot and then be disposed of. Find a way for that character to make a way that story, like, cannot exist without that character's journey being important to it, even if that story is small. Like, there are characters in Tamerlane who are not going to be around for the whole time because they just can't, but I still am, like, insisting to Caitlin, like, what are these characters' journeys? What do they care about? How can we give them little failures and little victories before they go? How do we deal with their emotional thing, even in a small way, before we stop seeing them anymore?
Like,
otherwise, what was the point, right?
Exactly. Like I was saying earlier, that even things that, like, characters that were meant to be one and done, like, oh, I needed somebody to do this, so I made this character, and now that's done, and so they can go away. And Ari's like, yeah, but think of how much better it would be if they were actually integrated into the story and had more of a storyline and an impact, and it's not just like, oh, there was a character, bye.
Bye. Yeah, people who think that the Jonas story is just gonna get dropped for sads, like, we didn't do that and then be like, whatever. I would never want to throw Jonas in the river as a way to make Tamerlane's story harder and then just say, screw Jonas. That's not, I don't
like
think these things can't be
fridging
done.
characters.
Yeah, fridging. Fridging is a term where I believe it came from a character that was like it was a mold. I believe it was a murder mystery story, like a noir story, and a guy had a gal he loved, and the gal was found dead in a fridge, and literally they used her being killed off screen as a justification for this character's actions. From then on, like, I've gotta take charge, I gotta move forward, blah blah. And it's like, okay, fridging a character, usually done to women, it's very commonly done to female characters in the service of men, is when you have a character just get killed off just to make another character's story happen. And it's not generally a great way to write. I want to say one more time. Nothing that I say is 100% the only way to write. I'm just a person, and I just write. I'm still learning myself. I'm still navigating this world too. These are things that I have learned work for me. If you find that certain things work for you, if I say something that contradicts what works best for you, that's okay. Like
100%.
it's storytelling is subjective. I personally think that you should always try to find a reason for why your character's in the story beyond just moving plot from A to B. The story should move. The plot points A to B should reflect the character. The character shouldn't just be like a vehicle. I wouldn't. Oh my god, I think you might be right. Well, I think it was Green Lantern. I think Green Lantern did do something like that once. So I'm pretty sure a lot of superhero origin stories do that with like the Mary Janes of their stories. Like, Spider-Man, you could argue Uncle Ben has been fridged for eternity.
It's true.
They say no matter which universe Spider-Man you go into, Uncle Ben must die in every multiverse of superheroes. Uncle Ben will always be dead. I would say that the closest thing we have to an Iroh character is actually Oakwood, in that he's not as sweet as Oakwood is, but he is a character who has wisdom to share because he has seen things no one else has seen, but also has weaknesses and traumas because of those things that he's seen that we are learning more about. Iroh at the beginning just seems like the most chill man in the world. Oh, Iroh was a great example of what I was talking about earlier with like a character with a complex backstory that serves as a current character.
Oh, yeah.
Iroh fought in the war. He lost he was a general. His son, wanting to impress his father, Iroh's son fought in the war and like died, and that's like where he started. His son isn't even in the story; it's just not there, and that's pretty early on. They established that like he just has no kid. He sees Zuko as like a son, and the reason why is partially his desire to be there for his kid, for this kid. And we see that Iroh is emotionally struggling. His constant peaceful nature drives Zuko nuts. It's not his lack of action sometimes is very infuriating, but also he's calm and he's collected and he's willing to take time to think. And we learn as time goes on that Iroh is a flawed man who has done bad things. He's not above forgiveness. He's not perfect, but the backstory, we don't ever see a moment of his backstory. We see like they kicked a photograph of him when he was younger, maybe. We never see his backstory, but his backstory is, yes, he fought in a war and he had like a family backstory, but like at the end of the day, his current old man who drinks tea is far more fascinating because they explore the consequences of those things constantly.
100% agreed.
Too much so when you say character syndrome, do you mean like main character syndrome? Like, what is that? What do you mean by like because main character syndrome would be like the whole?
I would guess it's having too many characters you're balancing. Not that we have any idea what that is like.
Yes.
Oh, main character syndrome. Okay. Never mind, I was wrong.
So you mean having too many characters, main character syndrome, or having or self-inserting? Like in D&D when you like want just your character to be the main character and not allow other characters to breathe. Like what would you say specifically is kind of the concern you have? Can I try to address it properly? Let me see. Oh yes, Azor, we did. So basically we were saying that like character and backstory, at the end of the day, I always say that you should ditch backstory in the name of character. If your backstory is cool but your character has a plot that won't work with it, it's better to allow the story you're currently telling to be serviced best than to worry about the backstory is there to service your character. It's there to make the character deeper. Your current character you shouldn't lose a cool character you have now because you wrote something 5 months ago you can't change. It's okay to change things and usually it'll improve it. Oh, okay, cool. Perfect. Okay, exactly. Okay, absolutely. No, totally get what you're saying. No worries. No, I just want to make sure. No, you got it. That makes sense. Because main character syndrome in D&D is when one person's playing it is like, yes, I am the protagonist of this group. I'll do all the cool things. DM, I fight the dragon. It's like, okay, you swing at him and you do 1 damage. Why didn't I kill it? Like, I'm the main character. You're not the main character in a D&D game. They're all together the main character. But you're talking especially like when you have a bunch of characters and you fall in love with all of them and you really want to make all of the major players. Is that what you have? Because I have that so bad. Is that what you're talking about? That feeling of like, oh god, I created 8 characters. All of them are interesting. I kind of want to tell all the stories, but I can't do it. There's too many. Yes. Okay. There's a couple solutions to that problem. Number 1. Tales from freaking Treehollow.
Yeah, 100%.
Treehollow is basically my way of
I am
Telling
unshrimping.
stories-
Thank you, Beck.
Backstories are TFCs are a way for me to explore backstories and characters that I just don't have time for in a main comic. A lot of the time. But beyond that, I came into when I made Mothorial, I was like, here's Ava, here's Ackerley, here's Corey Vex Rayona. Oh no, I like Corey Vex Rayona. Oh no, I like these other. Oh no, oh god, I have 20. Oh god, I have 50 characters. Oh, here's your answer. There is a difference between a character getting a good story and a character being a main character.
Yeah.
And I think it's very easy to get tempted to tell, like, why does fan fiction exist? Because good characters don't always get the main story, and people wish that they did, and that's kind of cool. Like, there's a story called Rosencrantz and Guildenstern Are Dead.
Yes.
So basically, what that was, for those who don't know, I believe it was Hamlet, right? Yes.
Yeah.
Hamlet is a William Shakespeare play that most people have at least heard of. In that story, there are these two goofy, kind of comedic side characters who kind of you'll just see walk in and kind of just talk about things. They're kind of sideliners. They get made to do a bunch of tasks for other characters. Like, hey, Hamlet's like, hey, Guildenstern and Rosencrantz, go do this for me. They're getting tossed around. And then at one point, someone comes on screen and says, Rosencrantz and Guildenstern are dead. In the play. They die. Off screen. Something happened during the course of Hamlet that killed them, right? And you're like, oh dang, they're dead. Okay. Anyway, another playwright who I think is a genius was like, I'm going to write a play called Rosencrantz and Guildenstern Are Dead. And I'm going to basically tell the entire story of Hamlet, but just following these two guys. And let me ask you guys, I'm going to blow your minds. Y'all have seen Lion King 1.5, right? Everyone has seen Lion King 1.5, or at least has heard of it. Do you remember how Lion King 1.5 follows Timon and Pumbaa following their story when Simba shows up? They were doing Rosencrantz and Guildenstern Are Dead because Lion King is Hamlet. They literally purposefully did Rosencrantz and Guildenstern. It was the basis for 1.5.
I love that so much.
The two comedic characters from Lion King and do their story. They have admitted that Rosencrantz and Guildenstern was the point. It was the inspiration for it. Because Rosencrantz and Guildenstern are Timon and Pumbaa. The two goofy characters who help out the character on their journey and aren't the main characters. That's kind of what they served as. 1.5 was their way of saying, let's just do the same thing. Let's just do it again. So, no more Hamlet spoilers. Hamlet spoilers are gone. Spoiler alert, it's a Shakespeare play and it's very sad. My suggestion for you, Corvid, and it's just something I struggle with too. Think of what it is you love about these characters, right? Find a way to explore their story as a micro story within your story. For example, in Tamberlane, I'm going to give a small example, Caitlin, that's like slightly coming up, but it's so minor, I don't think it's worth worrying about.
I trust you.
Avery and Jason clearly had marital issues. We are going to explore their relationship as a divorced couple, but it clearly isn't the main point of Tamberlane. We have a couple scenes where we have other characters, maybe Anthony, Piper, characters navigating within that family dynamic who are witnessing and experiencing what it means to have a divorced family, to love Jason and love Avery. Jason and Avery are characters. You're already kind of diegetically seeing Avery and Jason's story. When Jason first came into town and Avery's like, yeah, I'm gonna go see him. Yeah, he has a girlfriend now. And then we meet the girlfriend. And then we see Jason with the kids. But it's like, I wonder what Avery and Jason's relationship like as friends. Oh, how is the fact that Avery's dating Isaiah and Jason is dating his girlfriend? How is that gonna work? It's like, I could write a whole gosh dang story about Avery and Jason. They're interesting characters. But what we decided to do is just said, what is the answer to their story? What is interesting about story? And that obviously is dealing with what it means to be a family coming together through separation and finding peace with each other. And we're trying to explore that through a few scenes, but it's not going to be the main point. It certainly can't go on for super long because there's too much going on in the story. I believe that you can mostly address characters like that. So if you have a character you love, maybe there's a way you can implement their themes into the story. And maybe that can be directly tied to the main character. Maybe it's a tertiary connection. But, like, For example, we were like, okay, Avery and Jason are interesting, but they're not main characters. But Piper and Anthony are, and they are directly connected to. So I was, for instance, like, maybe Anthony struggles trying to get advice from parents because he's like, maybe Anthony kind of wishes his family was back together, right? Maybe that sense of separation is hard for him. How does that tie into his life with the kids, his life at home? You can find ways to take characters that you already have as main characters and allow their journeys to include aspects of characters you love so that everyone's getting a little bit of the pie. You know, you don't have to everyone be a main character, but there's a difference between being a main character and just disappearing, right?
Yeah.
Another fun thing you can do is solve a character's issue. In so much as it matters for the individual story you are telling, or at least get to an ending point that's comfortable, and then put that character in a position where if you ever want to write a story about that character, you can. For example, Ender's Game has this character in it who is this nerdy little shrimpy kid who is Ender's best friend. I believe his name is Bean, I think. Maybe I'm misremembering. It's been a long time since I read this book. And this kid is, you know, literally under Ender's shadow for literally the entire story. No one pays attention to him because he's like this nerdy, quiet kid, and Ender's like this amazing, basically Destiny child, basically, right? The smart genius who's gonna save them in the war. Or is it Scott Card, who tragically went from being a progressive sci-fi writer to a conservative, gay-hating bigot in his later years? It's very sad. One of the last books he wrote during his really progressive era, when he was writing all these really good books that were really pro-gay and pro-like anti-xenophobia, really interesting. He wrote a book called Ender Shadow. And Ender Shadow is exploring, kind of like Rosencrantz and Guildenstern did, it is exploring this character who has lived in Ender Shadow the whole gosh dang time, and how their life at the end. Apparently, it's a great book because that story isn't necessary for Ender's Game, but if you are lucky enough to have characters that are so wonderful that they deserve their own story, finish their role within the story you're telling, and then maybe after you're done, you have the opportunity. Or if you just don't have the opportunity, you can hand that opportunity off to fanfiction writers, to the fan base who will fall in love with this character. It's okay to have... You don't want every character that is main to be the only good ones. So you're writing, this is a very interesting thing. So you have a main character who is the, so you have a bunch of main characters who are all facing the same inciting character. And inciting character, you're basically telling us we're following the inciting character in the bunch of main characters' lives. And that's very unique. And I would say lean into that. Explore, you could potentially treat all these different character stories as little... Like, for example, what if this story was written as a series of mini short stories or as like an anthology of stories where the one tying thread was this character coming into these characters' lives? Imagine, for instance, if you were writing a story, you wrote like, I'm not saying it's the only way to do it, this is an example. You could write an anthology of stories, and each story is clearly from the perspective of a character that you love that isn't this character, but then this character always is the constant character that shows up. Other characters show up, things tie, you get a grander sense of the story on top of it, but at the core, you are witnessing this character. Here's the thing, you say this character is flat. My suggestion is, this character is a blank slate upon which other people project their thoughts. They see in him what they want to see. So instead of being like, I'm going to be within the headspace of this flat character, be in the perspective of all these characters you are interested in and want to tell, and then you can see this one character through so many eyes and see how can many people interpret the same person, especially when that person is blank enough that you project your fears, your thoughts onto them, right? So maybe start thinking about telling the story through more perspectives. Maybe allow this main character to not be someone we get the perspective of at all, or at least very often, because if we don't know what they're thinking, we are reading into what they're thinking based on whose headspace we're in. And then the story is super diverse, and this character becomes a man of a million faces, right? Even if they have one thing going for them, every person is a million faces depending on who looks at them. So if you have a character who feels flat, but has if this character has a fascinating backstory that explains why they are this way, maybe the other characters are wondering that, and because we're in their heads, we're getting to see that wonder. And then maybe the last section of the book, we start piecing together the backstory through the book, right? So if you have a situation where you have too many characters and you're not exploring them, and you want them more than the main character, maybe make them the main characters. Maybe you're to kill your darlings moment. Maybe if you love them so much, Maybe make an anthology. Maybe tell a small town story where you explore a bunch of viewpoints. Stephen King wrote It and The Stand, and they have like 80 characters. Sometimes you have too many characters to like do a traditional story with, and in that case, the strength can actually become, rather than being like, oh, I'm just gonna kind of throw them all away. Maybe you are writing a story about a small town of people and seeing the lives of many people touched by this one man, right? Or this one person. I'm assuming a little bit here, but my brain's thought of Luffy and Goku the whole time. But yeah, so that's my advice. Really, is if you are write backstory to service your character. Put everything down, even if you think it's stupid, because it might not be. It might be brilliant, and you just haven't had a chance to apply it yet. If you have too many characters, maybe your story is going to be more of an anthological story. If you think you have too many characters and you definitely don't want to write multiple perspectives, find ways to draw mini arcs. Allow these characters' backstories and things to weave within the story.
Let's see. It is 5 o'clock, so we have technically hit our end. I am just noodling whatever comes out of my brain, Izzy. It is brain splat time.
Each of an account answer lies in my stuff, and then there's 4 symbols. Click on, take a look. All right, so we will look at that next time. We're gonna look at that note. I did so much in this game today, and I didn't definitely stare at the wall all the time.
Next time, I think we'll get you a good guide to have up on the side so that you can work through it.
Yeah, part of it also that this particular topic is what I really invested in, so I have a lot to say, but we can also potentially pick a topic that I may have less to say about, and I'll be more of a gameplay head. Like we'll find a topic that like might be easier to like do a lot of gameplay. Cause I want to get through a chunk too.
Yeah.
But yeah. Thank you guys so much. I had a lot of fun. Hopefully that some of the advice was good. I apologize if any of it kind of felt like it was, because the backstories themselves, again, because backstory service character and service story, you kind of can't talk about it without talking about characters and story. But
also, thank you for following Epic Mage.
Thank you so much. Just allow everything you do in your story to allow what you're writing to change what you're planning, and allow what you're planning to influence. Like, remember the stories? I think
We've been head patted.
Yeah.
Thanks for following, Fra.
The ending
now we got 769 followers. And nice.
So the way I will summarize it is, stories are a flux, loose thing. You should never be stuck to your ideas. And part of that is you can write your idea down, and I'm going to tell you a secret. Let's say you get halfway through a story and you realize that you have an idea, but it contradicts something that happened in the first half. Write it anyway and fix it later.
Yes, 100%.
Write your best story always, and you can change things later. And yeah, like I said, I'm really excited to see what stories y'all been writing and stuff. I want to see like that presented. Like, writers need more credit for the work they do. It's a lot of work, and I love y'all. You're great. So keep doing what you do. Be inspired. Take a little time every day to read and write and to process stories and create stories and have a good time.
And Mythics, thank you for having a watch party of our thing. That's nice.
Thank you so much, and thank you for joining us for the first time.
Yeah,
we enjoyed it.
We are having a great time. Let me take a look at our list. I'm not positive this is what we will do next time.
Positive.
Positive. Looks like character morality is next on the list.
That's fun.
So that'll be fun to talk about. So think about stuff for character morality. If you have any other topic suggestions,
easier, I think, for me to talk about while playing, because it's a little more second nature. But yeah, characters, bad, good. Here we go.
Yeah. And I have a lot of stuff to talk about there, so I can fill the void. If you have any topic suggestions, you can feel free to drop them in the thread on the Tamberlane channel in Foxglove Comics, which you can find a link to at foxglovecomics.com. It's a Discord server and a great community. And we're gonna head off for the day. Thank you so much for joining us. We had a great time. We always love getting to hang out with you guys and talk story shit.
Yeah, thank you all. And always remember, you know, it's easy to look at us in the stream and be like, oh, I'm an amateur talking to professionals. I only started really writing stories a few years ago, and I'm still navigating. We're all just on a journey
I'm just
figuring
some
this out.
dork.
We're some dorks making stuff. You know, one day you'll, like, I am now sitting where I watched people sit a few years ago, and nothing particularly has changed about me. I've just been doing it.
Yeah,
like,
pretty much.
write your stories. You're gonna make good stuff. Thank you all
Yeah.
so much for joining us today.
Thank you all. I'm gonna turn off the stream in 3, 2, and 1.
Bye-bye.
Bye.